welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTrain.tv, where every day we are doing exciting FileMaker training, and we are on day 12 or 13 of our law and disorder FileMaker training. And so the idea with this training course is we're going to spend about 35 days covering all the topics from beginning to more intermediate topics. In fact, let's talk about that real quick. I got this little handy dandy graphic right here. And this handy dandy graphic shows that basically on the left side, we see the business owner. That's typically the manager, someone in an organization who needs some sort of software built because they have a process that's painful for them. Then we have brand new developers. Once upon a time, we were all brand new developers. Welcome to being a brand new developer. It's an exciting time where you get to learn a lot. You feel overwhelmed. You really do. And so my job is to help get you over whatever sticking spot you're having, to help you feel less overwhelmed and help you move you along in your progress to being an awesome FileMaker developer. Why do we love FileMaker? Because you can create create software solutions, business solutions, organizational solutions that save time and money. It's not a little bit of time, not a little bit of money. I've gone to organizations, they spend $20,000 or $30,000. They save $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 per month in doing much more work with the staff that they have. Without hiring more people, they do quite a bit more work. The return on investment, it pays itself off rapidly, typically within several months. Those are the best kind of customers projects. My job is to take people who might be brand new FileMaker developers over here and help move you along the way to being intermediate. Sometimes you're like, I was having a meeting with one of my senior staff and they had no idea that you could do this keyboard shortcut in layout mode. They've only been working in FileMaker for 15 years. So if you pay attention, there's always something new you can learn along the way. I learn things from you folks, which is really exciting. I love learning new things. That's why I do what I do. I'm always going 9,000 miles an hour. So today's topic is going to be on digital document management. The idea with digital document management, the short version is that you have PDFs, photographs, all sorts of stuff that you want to store. So digital document management is not a radical. Most people know what that is. The question is how to do it in FileMaker. Almost anyone can kind of get it to work in FileMaker, but to do it well with good performance takes a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of discipline to force yourself to do it the correct way. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So it's a kind of field in the FileMaker platform, the Claris FileMaker platform. So if you go into a database and you look at the field definitions, like I open up a little sample file I have right here. So once again, we're past learning the keyboard shortcuts. If I'm in browse mode, Command or Control L drops us into layout mode. We go to layout mode. That's how we edit the layout. But if I want to edit and add a field to the layout, typically I'll be in layout mode first, and then I will go File, Manage, Database. Typically is what most people end up doing it this way. And so here's a field. We have a name field. What if I have you could call it photo. It doesn't really matter what you call it, but I would call it a digital document. And so a digital document is something other than a text, a single block of text, string of text. Is something different than a single number. When we say number here, it's a single number. Date, a single time, timestamp. It's a container. Okay, a calculation is any of these items up here. And you could have a calculation outputs as a container, but at the end of the day, it's a container. In other data systems, they call it a blob, right? It's basically, it's a block of binary that for the most part, the database isn't going to mess with. It just stores it. It moves it around. It might display it for you. The idea is just display it at high speed, make it available at high speed, that kind of thing. So I'm going to say digital document, container, create. If we look real quick at the options for it, a lot of auto enter the creation date or things like that, they're grayed out because it's an image or it's a PDF or it's a Word file. Now, a Word file, you can edit a Word file, but you would edit it in Word. Excel, same thing. But everything that's, every kind of document you possibly have, you can drop into a container field. I would say 95% of the time, there's a couple of outlier situations where you have to zip a file before you can put it into a container. So that's kind of a thing that you might run into. But anytime if you try to put something in a container and it objects to that, zip it, then stick it in the container. So anyway, so that's the auto enter options there. Validation, you can ensure that it's not empty. Either there's a container there or not a container there. Right? But basically the auto enter and validation options are pretty minimal. We'll say it's a container. We say, okay, it drops the container on us. If we're in browse mode, we have a picture. Let me see. So Let's get a picture of Taylor or Taylor. There's Taylor Sharp. So this is one of the Texas FileMaker developers here. I'm going to take a screenshot of him. Command Shift 4. Take a screenshot of his face. Although I did something small and cuddly here, but it's an image that'll drop on my computer. I can drag and drop that over here. Okay. When you define a brand new container field, by default, that container, that image, the document is stored inside the file. So if I put this over here and I put Taylor's over here, this is the guy who's built databases with government agencies we can't even talk about. This is him right here. So his picture is in this file called untitled. This is the file right here. So if I close the file, let's take a look at the current size of the file. Very important. It's 1.3 megs. Like that's a brand new file with one field in it. So why is it already 1.3 megabytes? Well, if I look at this picture of Taylor right here, that's a 975K image, right? So that's so that's where a majority of that space went. So you open this up and you're like, I'm going to create a new record and I'm going to put a movie in here. Now this movie is what? Probably there's 10 megs, 11 megs. So I'm going to drag and drop that in here. And this is Taylor movie, okay? And now I'm going to close the file and we check the file size now. So it's going to be how much more? It was 1.2 and plus 11. So what, 12.2 or something like that? 12.6, okay? So you're like, hey, that's great. The image is in. So the thing is with other data systems and old FileMaker from back like 30 years ago is that you would open up the file and real easily you would have broken, it would say broken, can't find the image, that kind of thing, right? So the issue becomes one where Taylor is in there and other photos are in here and other movies are in here and this file gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're like, well, that's great. It's all in one place. I can manage that. The rub with this strategy is that while as a beginning developer and you're building a solution and you're testing, getting it working, this is fine. But when you have a customer, like Margaret's working on this Big Valley Aviation database a little bit, there's a record in there with 300 photos in it. And suddenly, if FileMaker Server has to back this up, and this is, say, 20 gigabytes or 30 gigabytes or 40 gigabytes, suddenly a backup copy every 15 minutes or something, that's a lot of drive movement savings, a lot of space potentially. And so that's not the best in terms of performance. Ideally, as a brand new person, you just put it all together in one file. However, understand that it gets this conversation right here is that you can generally store up to 4 gigabytes of binary data, which means a 4 gigabyte movie or something in a container for performance, right? We want to, in short, we want to have all the containers be saved external to the FileMaker file. This is kind of like, there's like 2 or 3 huge concepts here. Everything else is fluff around the edges. The 2 or 3 huge concepts is that while as a beginner, like Megan was before, now she's an intermediate person, Megan probably started off with putting the containers, they're stored in here, okay? We want to store it externally. So what you do is you're here in FileMaker, you're going to say File, Manage, Database, right? Questions along the way, please ask questions. I don't want to feel like I'm all here by myself. I click on Container. It should say right here, once again, if you've been watching when I present during these live streams, I always typically tell you what it should say when Claris is building the interface and they screw this up, okay? Because I do training and I'm here with you, I know the kinds of questions that you have, but I want you to ask them because everyone has their own little spin on things. I want to ask your questions, but one of the things is how is this container being stored right now? Well, Claris doesn't tell us. The company, when I say Claris, I'm talking about the company or the people at the company. It's a subdivisional subgroup at Apple. It should say stored internally, right? So if I click on this and I say container and options right here, I can hit the storage option. We looked at auto enter, wasn't very much. Validation wasn't very much, right? You can say the maximum number of sizes there, but storage is a big one. So store container data externally is a checkbox, i.e. if it's not checked off, it's internal. So it's internal right now. It's stored in the file. And once again, as you start to grow a solution, you're going to want to maybe start off internally, but then at some point, change it to external. By coming here and just changing it to external and select secure storage as a reason for this, not hackers and stuff, but there's a technical reason for this. You said, okay, when you hit okay here, then FileMaker, either locally or even FileMaker file up on your FileMaker server, it's going to spin. It's going to take all that containers out. It's going to stick them in a directory next to the file. I say, hey, you're about to move this stuff. You're sure you want to move it? Confirm, 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 confirm. We're going to do this. You say transfer. And if you have a bunch of records, it might spin for a little bit. Here's what ends up happening is that your FileMaker solution is now, that was the original. We don't care about that. That right there is your entire FileMaker solution. That's should be in an ideal world, your FMP 12 file, right? Contains all your text data. It's a structure of your FileMaker file plus the data the users have entered minus any container data. The container data is stored externally over here. Okay, it's in the secure area. In fact, what I could do, just so you can see it, I can go back here, and because it's secure, it obviously encrypts it. But let's just say it's open storage for now. I say, okay, it'll do another convert thing on it. So then if you come over here, there's a container there, right? I can right click on it and I can say export it. But what FileMaker is, this is the file. It's looking for this folder right here next to it. Don't rename the folder. The folder right here next to it. And if you dig in here and flip this down, flip it in, flip it down, there you go. You can actually see they're not encrypted. They're right here. Okay. Pretty neat. So the important thing is to understand, one, by default, it saves it internally. That won't scale well with lots of users or lots of container data. Two, you could press a button and have it save it externally, and that can work either locally or do it on the FileMaker server. Now, if I'm going to upload the file to the FileMaker server, I tell FileMaker to upload this. It's going to be smart enough to go, hey, I've got some containers reference over here. If we go over here and say share this and upload it, that should say upload to server. They always say host. No one, it's like an alien. It's hosting. It's an alien. It's inside of me. It's going to come out of my stomach, right? I am the host for the baby alien, right? Some alien horror movie, right? Upload to server. Everyone knows what a server is. Or it's a person delivering food to you at your table at dinner if you're at a restaurant. But you get the idea. You could say that if you upload to the host and the server, FileMaker knows to grab the main file, and you could have a couple FMP12 files, but we have one. And it's going to grab all the assorted items in here and move them together. Now, let's talk briefly about the other option of security. Encrypting it, yeah, it's like, I'm going to encrypt it so no one can get into it, okay? I don't do this for the security of a hacker trying to get into that. What I do this for is that what it does is that it takes the file, it encrypts it, but it's not one file anymore. It takes it, it breaks it down into all these other directories with little bits of text and data and here and there and everywhere. And there's a formula on how this works. I don't know what the formula is, okay? So here's the deal. And this is if you're a beginning person, you've never heard of this before, understand that on a Mac or Windows computer, maybe Linux too, I don't know, you can only have so many files in a directory. That number is variable. Back in the old days, 30 years ago, you could have 100, 200, 500 files in a directory. So if this was all the containers and you had 500 containers in here, you opened it up, it would struggle, it would beach ball, it would spin, it might even crash because it can't show you a listing of all the things in that directory. As the years go on, computers get better, the operating systems improve, they can scale to more and more documents. However, there seems to still be always a limit that you can run into. And what you don't want to do is have FileMaker server keep shoving all the containers into one directory if they're images and fill it up to the point where the operating system can't manage that folder, can't show it to you. It spins. You're like, what the hell? If you encrypt it, you turn on secure storage, it takes it and it takes the file and it chops it into a bunch of pieces and spreads it over what? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 directories here and 5 directories here. That greatly expands on what it can do. And as you add more items in here, it'll continue to expand. And yeah, it's hard to piece this back together, but that's FileMaker's job of decrypting it when you need it. The encryption and decryption is automatic. It handles it for you automatically. I'm just telling you, there's a technical reason in terms of scalability that this is good. Most people don't know about this, right? But this is a giant, it's like a dog doo-doo on the floor in the house. Someone's dog leaves a doo-doo or on your front lawn and you walk on it, step on it. You don't want to step into a directory with, say, 20,000 items in it, right? With 20,000 photos, 20,000 items. Will the computer handle that and display it for you properly, rapidly? I don't know. But, and so because of that, I know that there are limitations. So that's why make secure storage. It's external, but everything's in here. So if you want to make a copy of a solution and take it, give it to Fred or Sally or move it to another server, these two things go together. They're like hand in hand all the time. Make sense? Questions, Margaret?
Can I also save the external container data on an external disk or only in library/FM server?
Yeah, on FileMaker server, that's a path name option for that. You don't have to use the command line. Labo's got a response there about the command line. I mean, you could do most everything in the command line on FileMaker server. We have a video on this where Jacob Taylor talks about he writes the backups or he writes the data for the containers to a different drive. So he actually puts this on drive C or D, and this is on drive E or F or G or something like that. And FileMaker knows that they go together. Normally, they both say entitled, but normally this would say Kermit the Frog CRM. And this would say Kermit the Frog CRM. You can tell they go together, right? Makes sense. So yeah, there's a benefit to separating them on the server. There's a live stream about this. It's got to be 18 months old, maybe 24 months old, but it was a Jacob Taylor conversation. He did that live stream probably with you, Margaret, I would guess.
Isn't it stored twice on the server if you initially want to include an image that is stored on the server? Isn't it stored twice on the server if you initially want to include an image that is stored on the server from Maui Lani?
The short version of this is that from your perspective, it just works. So if you're at this level or this level, you put the container in, it just works. The part about the different paths and how it carves them up and so you don't have directory problems is more of an advanced thing. The question that was just asked is more advanced thing too. Under the hood, you don't see this. When you drag and drop an image in there, for example, if it's a PNG or a GIF or some other format, FileMaker will keep the original. It also converts it to a JPEG, I believe, and it will use that JPEG for mostly display options. So internally, there's two copies of it, but you're never going to see that. And one of them will be pretty well compressed with a JPEG. So understand that it's not something you would ever see or have access to. You can't go in there and say, only show me the one or show me the other. All you can do is say, here's the container, show it to me or don't show it to me. You can actually do a calculation to get a thumbnail of the container, right? So for example, this is a container. On the Mac, I can drag and drop it out and it becomes an image right here, okay? I can script that process. I can take this, and this is one of the cool things about the way the containers work. If the container is an image, it will auto resize the container and send that data down to you, right? So if you have a list view, so say, let me see, do I have DBW2 on here? I do have 2 on here. Let me open this up. So here is a solution. This doesn't matter. It has a bunch of aviation stuff in it, okay? It doesn't particularly matter. So all this is a very simple table. That's a description. That's the container, okay? It displayed this pretty rapidly, okay? So by default, if I drill over into this one here, I click on that, there is this chart. It's a screenshot of a PDF. It's 300K, but it could be a pretty big image. We could create a new record in here, and I could put in Taylor's movie over here. So I drag and drop that in here. And what will end up happening is it's going to spin and upload this all the way. I'm in Texas right now. It's going to upload it to California. So it's not going to put the picture on there, the thumbnail of that from the movie. There are ways to get that to happen if you use the Monkey Bread software. I use the plugin, the Monkey Bread plugin. I love Monkey Bread. That's where I would use it to do things like that. But the idea is if you had an image, say, so if we look at, that's a pretty decent sized image. I put it over here. And so he's big right there. And if I go back to the list view, then there he is right there. That's a smaller image right there. Okay. And so what it does, it auto resizes it on the server before sending it down on this list. So if I hit Command J right here and show all the records and I start scrolling, or I start scrolling here, we're scrolling, and you might see fast, you'll see a little arrow spinning. And what that is, it's sending me these images. This is pretty quick. Well, one speed improvement you can make is that you take the container and you just make it small in here. It'll resize it for you. Here's the deal with this. And it's and Claris likes to say, like, if you go into the solution, you can say file, manage containers. And it's going to say, oh, there's this container, and this is the path on the FileMaker server where it lives. Whatever, that's fine. Thumbnails, generate thumbnails, store them permanently. This is bullshit. This is like telling your wife that you're going to be married forever until 2 months from now when you're not married anymore, right? That's called trouble, right? That's what this is. This is grossly mislabeled. It's permanent storage until Claris, after about 3 or 4 days or a week or whatever it is, decides that you're not using it enough, and they eject it into space. So what happens is that to generate the thumbnail is basically taking a big image and scaling it down. Okay. Big image and scaling it down. And it has to do mental mathematics to do that. It takes time and effort. So if you're flipping through a list like this, you're flipping through a list like this, you're flipping through a list like this, that's pretty quick. This has an extra enhancement on it, but you'd be seeing this, and you say, well, it permanently saved it, so I won't have to calculate it again. It's lying to you. It will, because you can sit there and watch it, and it goes great. Come back in a couple weeks, and it's dragging. It's killing itself because the server's going, I thought I was going to save this, but then he didn't come back, so I got rid of it. And then, oh, now he's asking for it again. Quick, calculate, right? It lies. It lies. Okay, it just does. So part of being a software developer is understanding the quirks of the platform. And I'm sure it lies to me for a very good reason. I just dislike software that lies. So when it says it's permanent, it's bullshit, right? There's that issue. There's one issue. So the automatically thumbnailing down works really great until Claris decides it's not really permanent and it's lying to you. So what you can do, this is really awesome. I'm going to do it over here first so you can see me do it over here. Then I'm going to do it, is that Claris will, if I resize this, like every time I resize this, it's going to create that thumbnail. So there's a big one in there, there's a little one in here. It's going to use this little one. And even if I say keep it permanent, right? Remember what I said, container, it's going to be permanently stored, right? It's permanent until you turn your back on it, and then it dumps the data. And then the server has to struggle to redisplay it. I hate being across the internet waiting for my FileMaker server to do stuff when it shouldn't be doing it. I told it permanently store it. Well, it takes more RAM memory to get a bigger server. But it's like, well, the customers don't know what they're doing, so we're going to think for them. I hate that. So what you have to do, this is more of this is Megan level or higher, is what you do is you're going to create your own thumbnail. That way they can't eject it. How do you create your own thumbnail? Here's what you're going to do. Going to go over here, going to go to layout mode, just to keep things clear. File, manage database. We're going to call it really stored permanently. Okay, something like that. It's going to be a container, but I want it to be a calculation. So I'm going to say calculation. You could do an auto enter too on this. Yeah, let's do an auto enter on that. Why not? And that will make it actually even better performance. This is a Nick Hunter thing, right? So we're going to say create this. Then we're going to say auto enter. We're going to grab a calculated value. We're going to say, well, so if I just say calculate that, it's going to grab that one and bring it over. That's the full size. That doesn't do me any good. So there's this function called get thumbnail. Get thumbnail. It's not, and this is one of those things I hate. It's not get thumbnail like that. It's get thumbnail like that. Okay. And it's going to say, what field do you want? It's going to get this field right here. And then you can put the height and the width on here, whatever you want to do. You can play with this, but here's 100 by 100. So when we say, okay, I say, do not replace the existing value. No, I'm going to turn that off. And that what I will do is then I hit okay. I go to browse mode. So this should be the thumbnail. I'm going to make it big. This should be the really big one over here. Browse mode. Okay. So when did that calculation fire? It's an auto enter. When do auto enter calculations fire? They fire when a new record data is put in there or data is edited. So if I take Taylor Sharp over here, and this is the original one, I put him in here again, then anything anything that it looks at this, it's set to auto enter will auto fire. Okay, so if I drop this in here, that auto enter calculation will fire. So, so there's the original. There's my thumbnail. That's permanent. This is to compensate for whatever weasel factor permanent doesn't mean. Okay. Doing that right now is probably undocumented feature bug. Somewhere they documented when the permanent isn't permanent, but it has to do with the cache on the server, which is disposable. Permanent means it's not going to do it again. If I leave this database and I come back in a couple months or a week or two, the permanent thumbnails will be gone. And it's like, oh, she wants that. Megan wants that. Quick, kick it out real fast, right? I'm sorry, I'm over here waving my hands. You can't see me, but kick it out really fast. Quick, calculate it with a calculator. There it is. Give it to her. Maybe she won't notice that it went slow. I guarantee if that happened on this list, chink, 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 you're going to notice. Now, notice I scroll here. I'm in Texas. This is California. Look how fast it is, right? Because I told it to save a 100 thumbnail, and that's what these are. And they're instantaneous, baby. This is high speed right here. When you're 2,000 miles away, 1,500 miles away, and it does instant gratification. Now, if I click on this, it's going to go, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to see the full size container. Because when I click on that, this right here is that it's the same as this one. That's a little one. This is the big one. They're both the same fields. That weird thumbnail one is just the one I put on the list view. So I save my own thumbnail for the list view, right? And then you're like, oh, well, I'm gonna open this. It's 32 kilobytes. This one sucks. I need a one that's nastier. Oh, okay. Here's 702 megabytes. Now, that was pretty quick. It popped this thumbnail up pretty quick. Let me just go to layout mode. I'm kind of curious what I did. No, that is the full container. So what it does is it opened up, it's displaying page one. That's what it's supposed to do with PDFs. It's supposed to display page one so you know what's in there. If I hit open on this, it's going to download 702 megabytes across the network. Listen, if I press the button and you tell the user 702 megabytes, and if they think that's slow, you got a dumb customer, okay? You have to educate them. How the world works. The world's not flat. It turns. The sun goes up one side, comes down the other side. But if you have a customer that knows how things work, they hit open and they know the 702 megabytes, they should expect it to be slow. There's an expectation. They triggered the event. They are responsible temporarily for that slowness, okay? The farther you are from your FileMaker server, the slower it'll be, generally. So that's
questions.
Go questions. Now's a great time because this is what I'm telling you right now is not even in our curriculum, this behind the scenes with this permanent thing. Yeah.
Yes. So when you have several files or documents, do you have to open a container for each document? And how?
You cannot. Okay, back up. So let's pretend that this is training documents here. I'm going to go to, let me just pop up a thing here. I'm going to go to Bell 206 specific documents. Okay, so here's this. So then I'm going to say new record. Now what happens, notice it's blank down there and it's not even a container. That's a container that's set to not be enterable in browse mode. We talked about that where you can have things that fields that you cannot access in browse mode. So what I don't allow myself, and you could make an invisible button here, but what I do is I don't allow new records to go in here just because it's my internal solution. I know how it works. It's got little weird idiosyncrasies, but I'm lazy. I didn't want to build everything just for me. I know that if I go over here, I can put the picture or this video right here of, I'm going to put this over here. Okay. So that one container holds one file. If I wanted to hold, if I put another file on here, like here's the Law and Order PDF, if I put that on here, it's going to erase that and put the new one in there. Okay. Now, if I have a bunch of files together and I create a new folder and I put them in a folder, so I'm going to make a copy of all this stuff. Now they're all in here in this untitled folder. If I put the folder over here, cannot do that. Only one file goes into a container at a time. So you right click it on the Mac and you do whatever you do on Windows and you tell it to compress it into a zip. And now there's a zip, you stick the zip in there. There you go. It saves it. You're done. Okay.
How do you, okay, so the follow-up to that question, which is, I don't think is possible, but he's asking, if the container is holding multiple documents, like in that zip file, there's no way to make a list of all the documents inside the zip, right?
No, you have to. Okay, so listen, you guys are getting into monkey bread stuff. We've talked about some of this before. What you would have to do is you'd have to have monkey bread. You'd have to have monkey bread. We kick it out, then inventory it, then bring the list back in. You need a monkey bread plugin to probably go that entire way. You can automate the export. Like I have this button here. So understand how this works real quick. This is another thing in containers. And I need to caution all of you on this. I had a customer lose their one of the, hopefully it wasn't one of you, a couple days ago with one of my engineers. Here's a container. Let's click on the container and take a look at the options for the container. So when you come over here, I click on the container. I click over here and you come down to the bottom down here, okay? The options are reduce or enlarge image to fit, makes sense. These two settings here, images, okay? These are grossly mislabeled again. These are labeled for people who think the world is flat and yeah, just not very bright individuals. This should say display thumbnail if possible, otherwise don't do shit. It's basically a don't do shit connection. This one right here, interactive content, what this does, it should say attempt to load the player, attempt to play whatever's in there, and suck a bunch of CPU down. Okay. And oh, by the way, this may quit working randomly at any given time. The customer was really mad. We've hired you and spent good money. Yes, you have. We greatly value our customers. Yeah, but this feature quit working, and I don't want to throw bad money after good money. Okay, I get all that. However, understand how we got to where we're at. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say I'm not going to destroy my aviation database. I'm going to close it for the moment. Here is this. So here is Taylor as a I'm going to put two containers, and this even gets more interesting with FileMaker Go. So I'm going to put this one here. I'm going to duplicate it, Command D, same field. I want it right here. Okay. They're both the same field. They should be, that one's this one down here. Duplicate that. All right. So these should be the same, right? 1, 2, 3. They're the same. Layout mode. This one is set for just give me a thumbnail if you can, otherwise don't do anything. And will be totally compatible forevermore. Okay. This one, it says try to do, and it might blow up and piss off your customers. This one right here. So I'm going to leave that one on normal. This one is going to be set for interactive development. Interactive. And especially on Windows, where Claris tries to keep this running on Windows. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to set it to interactive. Okay. And the additional are start playback automatically. Okay. Go to browse mode. So it's a picture. You can't do much with a picture. If you had like Photoshop, you could try to edit, make Taylor 20 years younger or 20 years older or something. Get rid of the glasses. But if it's a movie, 1, 2, 3, I drop the movie. I can drop in either one. It doesn't matter. This one shows you that. And this one, it can't make a thumbnail of a movie, right? So it gives you a question mark. But then this one over here, oh, it's playing it inside. It's playing it inside the container. This worked right now. And there will be times when this just doesn't work at all. It's even better with PDF. So you come over here, you put a PDF in here. So here's a PDF. It's showing you, this right here, it's showing you a thumbnail of page 1 only. This is a big thumbnail. This is the 100 by 100 thumbnail of page 1. Totally useful. This one over here, you can interact with. You can scroll in it. You could even maybe edit it or do whatever you're going to do. Here's the deal. This breaks down. It's not reliable. Don't use that checkbox at all, ever, if you don't want your customer to call and complain. One of my engineers ran into problems with the customer who lost their because they're on Windows, and one day this just did bizarre and didn't work. Right? Look, I can select it. I can interact with it. When it's in this mode right here, this is a senior. Now we're having a senior level conversation. So now we're over here on this side right here. I'm going to show this up. I'm now going to talk over here. Everything I just told you is for this. Now I'm going to explain to you how and why with this right here. That when you put a container into interactive mode, it turns it secretly into a web viewer. It's driving it through the operating system to render the PDFs. So you're trusting the operating system now to deliver that content to you. Does Claris control that? No. They just dumped it off the operating system, said, good luck, have a nice life. But marketing thought it'd be a really great idea because it's kind of cool. It looks great, except that it's not reliable. and I don't want to get a call from a customer. So if you're always on Mac and you always control your stuff, and if it blows up, you can fix it. But if you have a customer, we paid you good money, don't use this checkbox. Well, here's the deal. If you want to interact with it, well, Richard, how do you suggest we handle that? Okay, let's go back to how I handle it with my solution. I tell the solution, there's a PDF right here. Oh, it's a big one too, 19 megs. I tell it that if you want to interact with it, see right there, it didn't redraw correctly. So every once in a while, but generally it works pretty good. Hit open. Open saves a copy over on the desktop or in a temporary directory, saves it somewhere on your computer first. Then you tell the computer to open it in the default application. The point is now we're in, on the Mac, you're in preview. On Windows, you'd be in whatever the default is for PDF reading, or if you have Acrobat Reader installed, right? Then you're in Acrobat Reader. It doesn't work good in Acrobat. Hey, I'm not an Adobe expert, right? And we dumped it in Acrobat, and as a FileMaker person, I'm like, done, okay? And it goes for Word or Excel. Word doesn't work the way I want it to work, or Excel, can't figure out a calculation. Richard Carlton, come over and fix this. Like, man, I'm not a Microsoft person, okay? Call your Excel rep and talk to them about it. Well, I don't have an Excel rep, so they call me anyway, right? But yeah, you get the idea. So my goal is to make customers happy and to not have them complain. And so using the interactive containers is literally like putting a landmine out in the parking lot and then driving around the parking lot, hoping you don't forget some Sunday night when you're driving through late at night, you drive over and because when it blows up, it'll be on the weekend, it'll be after hours, and you don't want to deal with the customer because you're on vacation or something. Okay, questions?
Yes, we've got several.
Yeah, I'm done with my little type, but this is this is really fantastic technology. I love this technology. It's wonderful. Don't trust the permanent, roll your own, and don't check interactive. And then if you do those two things, your life will be awesome.
Is there a way to save a path to the file you want to reference in the database table?
Yeah, you can get, there's a bunch of Git functions under, yeah, it has to do with variables. We talked about variables. One of the things we talked about variables the other day when I introduced them is that variables are really useful for file paths. So when I will, actually what I'm gonna do is I'm going to run this script, but I'm gonna run it with the script debugger. And so we're going to watch the code. I'll have a little scripter when I run this. This is already in starting point, by the way. So if you want this code, it's in starting point in a lot of places. You hit open. And so it's going to say, perform this script, okay? Okay, and here's some conversation written by this gal here. It sets a variable, get script parameter, doesn't matter. That's from the button that was calling it. Here we go, set variable path, get desktop path. So there's a bunch of paths that you can call on FileMaker Pro. Get desktop path, get application path, get temporary path. On FileMaker Server, it's more sandboxed as a security term. You can only use the temporary directory or the documents directory. So get documents path is another one. When you're running Pro on Mac or Windows, you have quite a few more options, but on Server, you only have 2 options, I'm pretty sure. So that's a test question. So you're going to set the path here into $path. If I step down and then I say, show the data viewer, if you go to the $, here's the path right here. Path is hard drive, users, Richard Carlton desktop, okay? So then you come over here, you step down, it said if it's USATS, whatever, if it is container 1, so now it's gonna say get container attribute. Oh, one of the things is that the file name is saved kind of hidden in the container with it. So I'm grabbing I'm putting the file name into the path, right? So there right there is the file, the original name when it was drag and dropped into the system. Now I'm going to export. So it sets the final path equal to both together. So the final path is the original path plus the file name. You could combine this together and make it, less lines of code, but I prefer more lines of code that are obvious and easy to follow. And then right here, it's going to do the export, and it's going to tell it to export to that path. You can also open things the same way or import things the same way. You can create a path and then import them. So that's how that works. If I finish here and then exports it, and then it opens it, and there it goes, pop.
Would a best practice be to create a separate directory for containers, contacts container, customer container, etc., to avoid any sizing issues?
Generally, we don't have things get that crazy out of hand. You could, once again, when you post a file on the server, yeah, you want to do it locally. Here's one of those things in life. Almost everything you can do on server that you can do in Pro. One of the things you can't do on server, in fact, the only thing that I'm aware of, is change, like right here, if I'm on this file here, it's on the server. If I go to manage containers and I say storage, I can't add, new, edit, change any of the base directories, right? I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to close this one, go back to our little test file. I go to file. So this file's running locally. It allows me to monkey with these settings a little bit. So I can say, you could create another one in here, right? And play with that. Most time we just stuff them in automatically. It generally will parse them apart by table automatically. So if you come over here to secure, well, when it's open, it parses it. Let me just take a look. It's back to secure right now. Yeah, so you can't tell. That's part of the obfuscation. If I change it back to manage containers, thumbnails, not thumbnail storage. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about too many different things at one time. If I go here and it's external secure, you hit options, storage, go back to open storage, then you could specify which of the path, but generally it has to be a path that already expects, but whatever. Yeah, you could actually say store it in contacts or something like that. Hit OK, see if that'll even work. Hit OK, it's going to convert it. Did it convert? So you come over here, you look at it, digital document, contacts. There you go. So yeah, you can roll your own and roll them into different directories. You don't have directory control if it's secure, but you have directory control if it's open. Cool. Next question.
There's kind of a conversation with David and Labo and Ruben that I think is interesting. I'm not sure if it necessarily constitutes a question. 2 container fields are storing in the same folder, wanted separate folders. How long should I wait? I think it is less than 20 gigs.
Wait. Oh, he's doing a conversion and there's 20 gigs? Is that
Yeah.
where you're in the file and you tell it to make it internal or external, and so it has to move it? It depends. If it's on a server, it's however long it takes a server to do it and how much space is on the server and what kind of hardware. I mean, if you have a server with spinning drives on it, which some people still do, then that might take a while. But if you have a server with solid state drives, then it's going to be pretty quick.
Oh, he's trying to change the location of a container field. The transferring picture popped up, waited for a long time without seeing it end before I stopped it abruptly.
Yeah, here's the deal. They had a lot of bugs with that that were patched about 8, 9, 10 months ago. So if you're on the latest version, it should work with the. Also, it's a corresponding server fix too. So if you have like my server always lags behind. I'll use the latest clients, but then I will my personal server is a 19.3 server, so I haven't pushed it to the latest greatest stuff yet. But I'm using the latest clients, but the server is 1 or 2 releases back, and I probably need to update that. But if I was having a problem, just keep in mind that if it's a file that's being hosted, the server is actually doing the moving, the transfer, not Pro. Pro's just, you're going to get a little progress bar. Server's doing the work. So, and if you go to the server, if you can log on to the actual server screen and see how much processor it's pulling, a lot of times you can see it's busy doing stuff, right? So.
I don't see any more on-topic questions. I'm going to ask an off-topic one.
Okay.
Sorry, a question that is not in today's topic. Can there be a database that can be multiplayer with different clients with each data, like rent individuals? Regards, thank you in advance.
All right, so a shared. So let me explain to you. So I'm going to bring up this graphic real quick. So we're talking about multi-user solution, right? So
yes.
So here's the deal: is that this is our graphic right here. The FileMaker server is here. You don't have to worry about these 2 pieces here. They're still kind of new and I don't use them that much yet. This is the essential piece. Then the clients down here are essential pieces. You can have many people log into one file at one time. We've done that here on the show. We post files and a lot of people can log in. You can segregate users to different records based upon their security. You can automate some of that with scripting, but you also can go through security. And we have a conversation. I don't know if that's coming up in the basic training or not. It's in our paid training course, I know for a fact. For those of you wondering about that, I'm just going to bring that up real quick.
Yeah, we briefly talked about privileged sets, but I've seen a couple questions about that pop over the last couple of weeks.
So basically, you can restrict users to records that only they're cleared to see, right? Does that make sense? So if you had a solution and you had like a rent solution and you had different, say like I'm renting a building and I want individual apartment owners to be able, or apartment condo owners or whatever, to come in and see their record, you could do that in FileMaker. Absolutely, you can do that in FileMaker without a question. Okay. You just need to test it really well to make sure that there's no way that person A can inadvertently get to person B's uh, record data and see that by accident, right? So for those of you wondering about this, I'm just going to give the quick pitch. These are our training bundles, right? So while we're doing free live streaming today, if you want to talk about a very specific topic or learn about it, you need to purchase one of these bundles and watch the training on that particular topic. We know that Megan specifically learned everything, she got no help from anyone else, and she is a FileMaker professional developer because of everything she learned from these training courses. I'm sure Jake had no help, at no time helped her at all.
How much machine learning model can compromise a container?
Okay, so most of the time you have to export data out of FileMaker. So yeah, you're talking about, well, the ML stuff. Yeah, here's the deal with machine learning. So ChatGPT is a lot more interesting than machine learning for me. So Apple has built some machine learning algorithms that Claris tied into. If you use those, you're building a solution that only works either on Macs or only on iOS devices, which means that no one on Windows or Android can take part in that. I fundamentally, grossly hate that. I believe that I don't want to tell people what kind of computer to use, and FileMaker needs to work on any and all of them as a general rule. So when Claris came out and they went on stage, and this was Robert Halsey in 2019 DEF CON, got on stage and was telling everyone how great machine learning was because the thing could learn what a carburetor looked like as a part. I did not give it because I'm not going to use something that causes all the Windows people not to be able to use it. At the same time, if there's a Windows feature that can't be used on Mac, I'm not going to endorse that either. If you're talking about Apple machine learning, that's what that's about. So Power Eagle, back to your question. So if we've done a lot of live streams on the chat, GPT or GDP or GPR or GPI or GPA or whatever it is. I have played with it little bits. Nick Hunter has played with it a lot, did a whole week of live streaming on it, dumping data of FileMaker, having the AI parse that, do useful things with that, bring that back in the FileMaker, or having a data set, having it parsed by the AI, then bring in a FileMaker. I talked to the guy that we're seeing pictures of today, Taylor Sharp, very technically sharp individual, one of the better FileMaker developers I know, very sharp. And he agreed and endorsed the thought that the AI for munging or processing, like columns of data or blocks of data and making it useful and getting it into FileMaker is really a great use for AI, right? AI is great for identifying patterns. It's not and deriving value from established patterns. It doesn't reason like logically thoughtful reasoning. It doesn't really reason. So it derives, as long as it identifies a pattern, like if every night you get up and you go drinking and then you go driving, you could derive a pattern that you're drinking and driving and you're probably going to crash your car. Okay. That doesn't take a rocket science to figure that out. ChatGPT, that's what it does. It's really good at establishing patterns, even patterns across the internet with a lot of different people looking for patterns. It's like if you exert these medical conditions, is that a pattern that you might have cancer? And then it sees that. That's great. But that's not really logical thinking. For example, you tell the other day he was talking to ChatGPT, said, hey, write a script for me. I need a function that does something. And ChatGPT did an analysis of other programming platforms that had a function that did X, Y, Z. And it told him, hey, this function exists. Go use it in FileMaker. That function doesn't exist in FileMaker. It's bullshit, right? But ChatGPT assumed or drew a pattern that since other software has it, then FileMaker has it and vice versa. And so it gave an answer almost knowing that it's a fraudulent answer, right? I mean, logically, thoughtfully, I would never tell someone an answer to something and swear on a stack of Bibles that it's the whole truth, nothing but the truth, right? As we go into Law and Order, right? Remember our Law and Order conversation. It's good at pattern and establishing patterns. It's not good at higher thinking. And so you have to understand with the machine learning, it's looking for patterns. So if you have a pattern issue where you're trying to match patterns of images or patterns, I check out Nick Hunter's AI conversation.
Off topic, can I connect to the paid training through my smart TV? I assume if your smart TV can access the internet or like a web page of any type, it
Yeah,
should be able
we're
to
delivering the content now through a web browser. It was all through the internet, but we were delivering through a FileMaker player. But it was fun as that was building a video player in FileMaker. It's good for building applications, but if someone had a bug, then we had to ship updates to everyone. So now we fix it on one place on the internet on the web page. So yeah, we're delivering it through the internet. So if you have at least a Chrome kind of browser and it uses open standards, and yeah, you could watch this content through the internet. It actually plays through Vimeo. We stage the videos on Vimeo and then we play them through open source player. But to get the access to those Vimeo files, you have to pay and get in the course and that kind of thing. But yeah, and then a lot of this, if you have questions, I can direct you to what video to watch. And eventually, if you ask questions, I'll eventually come back and touch the topic here, which is what I'm happy to do. We're running out of time. Other questions, Margaret? We have anything else? Megan's there working on stuff. How to store a container with a specific name, like a context of a text. What a tough question.
So basically, if you want to have a container with the name, like the file has the name, the content.
When you drag it in here, it's actually in there. So if I'm over here, back to our sample here, and I'm going to call this Taylor dot, it's probably a PNG. Yeah, there's a PNG. So I'm going to create a new record. There we go. New record, drag and drop Taylor in there. Okay, great. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to the data viewer. And so if I say watch now, I need to run a script. Let me see if we can do a script workspace. Let me just do a script that's called show custom dialog, pause indefinitely. Okay, save that, run it. Okay, pause, watch currently. Yeah, it's being dumb. I hate it when it does that. I could set it into a variable real quick. Watch. Let me see if I can just watch. Let me add a watch here. We can see if I can watch. See if I can watch that. Yeah, there it goes. So this is the data that's inside the container. Besides the binary, the little bits that make the picture of his face, you have the name of him right here. You've got the size, you got the DPI. This is just showing you these pieces. It's also got in it probably well, no, it's a screenshot, but the original would have Latin long coordinates of where it was shot here in Texas, etc. So yeah, it's in there. So David, that's in there, right? You have to, if you encode it, decode it, that kind of stuff. Yeah, there you go. So it's in there. It's just, if you go and export the file, if you have the file in the container, then you export the file out. Generally, unless you deliberately preserve the name or go and get the name, either with, like David said, get the file name. There's an attribute function. There's a function here. What's this called? Let's just build this. It's called get container attribute. Okay. And so if you go to get container attribute, you can go to field. And then I think if you put all in here, it'll show you all the attributes you have. No, that didn't work. Is that going to work, or does it have to be in quotes? Might have to be in quotes. Let me try that. There we go. So this is all the attributes of the file right here. Get container attribute. Okay. Once again, it's not get and then parentheses container attribute. It's one of these GIF functions that doesn't live like that. So you've got the name, the storage. It tells you the hash on it for encryption and stuff. The file size, the internal size, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So these are all the attributes. So Labo is pointing out, you can go out and get the file name. So if you say instead of all, you put the word file name there, you get just the little string out right here. Or if you put the word storage type or MD5 or file size, then that's what's going to come out, right? So kind of neat. Another hot tip for you. Megan should have already known that already. Megan, you knew that one, right? Get container attribute. You should. Calvin will be with you tomorrow. Margaret, what's the topic tomorrow again?
Tomorrow is navigation and device screen sizes. So that is tomorrow's topic.
Okay, that'll be good for Calvin. I'd be like, hey, just see if it looks good or not and keep going. All right, everyone. Thanks. See ya.
Goodbye, everybody.
report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!